I love a good movie reference.
Yeah.
There's just nothing better than a good movie reference. Hit me with an old one, a little Rancor.
The Rancor pit.
Good Lord. I feel like most people don't even know what we're talking about.
Well, they should. I mean,
They
you haven't seen
should.
Star Wars, and I don't know why you're here.
They're here for
What's the point of pursuing financial independence if not to watch Star Wars?
That's like, I'm not trying to be judgmental or anything, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much. Like, the goal of FI, a small, tiny portion of that is just to build out an epic movie room, fill it with popcorn and snacks, and watch movies all day.
And to build Lego. That's what I
Dude,
just build Lego toys.
Oh, dude.
All day.
I'm telling you, that inner child never died.
That's why I want a son really bad, just so I'm just gonna build Lego toy all
It's gonna be so awesome.
It's super cool.
Dude, this is great.
Yeah, at home, at my parents' house, I still have my X-Wing. I have Boba Fett's Slave 1, or Slave 2, the Slave 2.
Yeah.
And a few others that, like, they're just so hard to transport. So all I have here in Arizona is just my Batman tumbler. That's the only thing, because I made that when I was in Sacramento.
So nice.
And then I have all of my other, like, my collectible ones that are still in the boxes that are there to sell one day. Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. At this point, like, this Super Star Destroyer is like $3,000 if I was to sell it online. I don't know if I could ever just be like, this is worth $3,000 and like rip it open.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, I don't need $3,000, but
You don't need $3,000, but at the same time, you're not gonna burn $3,000.
you're not gonna burn $3,000
No.
just for like a few hours
Just
of
for
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't know about you, because like for me, like I'll draw out my like building process. If there's something that I'm enjoying, I'll draw it out for so long.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like for like a show, if there's like 10 episodes, I'll watch like the first 2. I'll wait a while. Then I'll watch the first 2 again. Then I'll go to the third one. Third and fourth one. Then I'll wait a while, forget, go back to 2, 3, 4. It's just sickness.
I'm obsessive, so when I get on things, it's like I need to know what happens. And
Oh,
I'll watch
okay.
them all the way through, and then I'll get depressed when it's over.
Yeah, dude. I'll tell you, there's been shows where it's like I'm not gonna watch the final episode because it never. If I don't watch the final episode, it never ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it was. Like, I watch Yellowstone a lot. We were watching 1883 and 1924.
Okay.
And those ones, we're on the last episode of 1924. We'll probably watch that tonight. And then once it's over, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah, we gotta find something new.
Yeah, I have to find a new show. But that's the nice thing, though, is that there's an endless amount of shows.
It's just unlimited. It's unlimited.
It is.
It kind of cracks me up because like when you were telling me about how like the Lego set is worth $3,000, I'm like, could one consider that a part of the crisis fund?
But you have to sell it.
You gotta sell it first, but still, it's an asset. It's if the world went to hell, I'm not gonna be the guy without a Lego set.
If the world went to hell, I'm going to have... That's what my bullets are for.
There's my crisis
There's
fund.
my crisis fund.
Good Lord, what are we talking about today?
Well, today's going to be a fun one. And welcome back, friend. Today is the final installment of the FI Crash Course. It's going to
Our
be a
recap
12-part.
episode.
Yeah, it's going to be a recap episode. And in this one, we're going to be breaking down the key points to the entire FI Crash Course and give you a summary. Something that I'm kind of rough estimate of the title. We're going to call the Doctrines of FI.
Yeah.
FI bless you.
Five bless you with the little money sign. Dang, I love that. When you said you or I don't know who said it, recap rather than review. I think I like recap better.
Okay, I like that too.
Okay, I'll just put that in our notes real quick. Recap, ooh, because we were talking before the podcast. I'm like, should it be recap? Should it be summary or review or summary? I'm like, I don't know. But then recap came up kind of naturally, and I like that.
Yeah, well, we'll title it that. So what we're going to be doing today is we've had 11 episodes dedicated to putting you on the path to financial independence and really taking control of your money. So today we're just going to do a quick review of everything. And the bigger hope here is that you're going to find something that maybe you didn't catch on the first episode and go back and re-listen to that, listen to what the action episode was that episode, and then see what we can implement into our life to make ourselves 1% better today.
Definitely. And if you recognize everything we talked about here and you understand it, then you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, then you are on your path to financial independence and living life with more intention and using finance as a springboard in order to live a more intentional life where we get to really live out our dreams and not be controlled by money.
Dang, that's a hell of a... That was great.
Off the dome, son.
Dude, man knows what he's talking about.
I think a lot about it in that so many people think that being financially independent, it's a number. Like, once I hit this magic number, I'm going to feel good about money. I'm going to be so much better.
Finally relax.
I can finally relax.
My shoulders can relax.
Yeah, I'll just feel good. But I'll tell you, like, I had a number in my head that once I hit it, I'll be good.
Yeah.
Once you have that number in your bank account, you look at it, you're like, cool. But the feelings, all this stuff doesn't go away.
No.
That's having to work with your money mindset. And then eventually I was able to come to the point where it's like, oh, I get to do things because I like doing them, because it fills me up with passion.
Yep.
Rather than doing things for money. Money is still a motivator,
Yeah.
but it's not the primary goal in any way, shape, or form.
And in an even worse scenario, you hit that goal and you're like, maybe it's not enough.
Yep. No, that's what most people do.
Most people do it, and
hedonic treadmill idea,
they just
right?
trace it. They just continue to chase it till they die.
Yeah.
You gotta end the race somewhere.
You know, there's a quote that I love. You know, I study Stoicism and Buddhism a lot, and I think that's helped me a lot with the philosophy more of this. But you know who Alexander the Great was? So Alexander the Great was once, he stood inside of the shadow of a man, or he stood over a man named Diogenes. Diogenes was a philosopher, and Diogenes told Alexander to move out of the way because he's blocking his sun. And Alexander said to him, "Do you know who I am? I'm Alexander. I'm the man who's conquered the world." And Diogenes said something to the effect of, "That's nice, but I am the man who's conquered the need to conquer the world." So rather than constantly striving to find more, who died more happy? Alexander, out on campaign, who died probably of syphilis, or Diogenes, who got to live a happy life without trying to strive for more? He knew that he had enough. We talked about that before, right? Pleased but never satisfied.
Yep. Wow, that's a story.
So I use that a lot. I think that a lot is when people ask me, even for my business of Minds on Wealth, they're like, well, why don't you grow bigger? Why don't you try to make it bigger? The reason I started this is to have a lifestyle practice, not to conquer the world.
Yeah, it wasn't to be the biggest firm on Wall Street.
Nope.
You know,
It was to be able to sustain my life, sustain travel, sustain getting to do what I want to do. So living a life of intention rather than just following the path that you think you need to because other people have put that out for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I want FI to be for everyone.
Yeah.
And that kind of moves into our first segment and the first episode of FI, which is discovering your why for achieving financial independence.
that's the main part. That's where you have to start. Without a good foundation, you got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the compass that's going to guide you on your FI journey. I think it was Nietzsche who said, he who has a strong enough why can bear almost any how.
I love it.
You know, and I think a lot of people, the reason that they want to achieve financial independence is in order to no longer have to work. Like, I just don't want to work anymore. And that's cool. I understand that.
It just kind of shows that you don't like your job.
Yeah.
Because you like your job,
Oh, I love my job.
but you're pretty much financially independent, you know, for the most part. But you love to teach, you love to help, and that's why we're doing the podcast.
Get out there to try to help as many people as you possibly can, because just like our listener, you know, I know what it's like to be stuck and to feel like you're in that rut and you're just going to be living this life for the rest of your life, living paycheck to paycheck. And it wasn't until I was able to figure out some things to break free of that I was like, oh my goodness, it's so simple. Or it all seems so simple, but it wasn't as simple as it is now looking back on it, because there were so many money mindset things that I had to fix.
Yeah.
Because I didn't come up with a lot of money. So there was a lot that I had to overcome in order to become, quote unquote, good with money.
Yeah. You know, we talked about, you know, the various possible FI goals as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just money. Like we were saying, it could be, you know, staying home with your children, not having to work when you're 85, you know, things like that. And for me, like, that's what it is for me. Well, that's what it is for you. For me, I'm like, I have no children. I'm not 85. What is this?
I'm not 85.
You're not 85. But like for me, it's like, I just want to pursue things that I find more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, I like creating content online, whether it be making vlogs or gaming content or reaction stuff, live streams, stuff like that, or making podcasts.
Yeah.
You know, I love just being with the people.
Yeah.
I love that. It's exhilarating. But you can't do that if you're in financial ruins or in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's important to have a strong why.
And to come from a position of power when you're able to do that. I was talking to you off the pod about one of the ways that I'm able to acquire, how my business has grown so much, because I'm not someone that like goes out there and like paves the...
Pays door to door.
Door to door. I don't make phone calls. I don't do stuff. But like, how do I find leads? I just kind of live my life, and people just come through me through serendipity. And I'm not a big woo woo like the universe is there. But if you just kind of have a good system and you're setting yourself up, people are naturally gravitated towards you. Especially because I have a pretty compelling story as to, like, I know where you are and I can help to be the guide to you. You're the hero of your own story.
Yeah.
And I'm just here to help you along the path.
Yeah, you're just a guide on my quest.
Yep.
I like it. In segment 2, in episode 2.
In episode 2 of the FI Crash Course, we talked about understanding what financial independence is and how do we actually calculate our financial independence numbers.
It's a pretty complex system, right?
Oh, it's very difficult.
Super complex.
You know, so much of finance is knowing all of the nitty gritty information.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with your systems or habits.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So this magical equation, if you will, this oracle of our world.
Yeah, get ready. Here it
Get
comes.
ready.
It's income minus expenses equals your driver to FI. It's pretty. I know it's hard.
It's pretty wild.
So make money.
Yes.
Don't spend as much money. Invest the difference.
Yep. It's basically rocket science.
Yep.
It's basically. I mean, that's how we got to the moon.
That's how we did it.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this before. Is that 80 to 90% of being quote unquote good with money has to do with your mindset. Has to do with your habits, your systems, your routines. Nothing to do with having some magical formula. I think everyone knows. Oh yeah, of course I need to make more money and spend less. But no one ever implements that because we're all looking for the thing that's going to be the quick fix, the hard, the sexy new stock that's going to rocket to the moon.
Yeah. To the moon.
To the moon, straight to the moon.
Diamond hands to the moon.
And then we talked about the 4% rule that was based off of the Trinity study, something that I know our best friend Dave Ramsey loves. If you haven't listened, go back and listen to last Five Friday feedback, where we talked about Dave Ramsey and his thought on the 4% rule. But the 4% rule is done by the Trinity study, and it shows how much you can withdraw from a portfolio that is 100% in equities and basically have over a 30-year plus time horizon, virtually zero chance of running out of money. So the way that you're able to calculate what your quote-unquote FI number is, and this isn't like a real, oh, I reached this number, I get to retire, I'm never going to make money again.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps, like we talked about. Mindset, whole bunch of other
and
stuff.
it's a rule of thumb. It gives you a direction. This is where we want to go. So it's 25 times your annual expenses.
Simple enough.
So say that you make $50,000 a year after taxes, you bring home 40, and you're able to live off that 40,000. You times 40 times 25. I want to make sure I do the math right.
Yeah,
because I've been attacked before.
Those comments, man, they're
okay. I was right. It is $1 million.
Okay.
So if you make $40,000 or you make 50, you're bringing home 40 after taxes, and you're able to spend that 40 and live a great life. Once you reach $1 million, which is 40 times 25 or 40,000 times 25, you have, good rule of thumb, enough money to call yourself financially independent and live off that $40,000 a year, because we're going to assume a rough 7% rate of inflation for our money is going to continue to grow in the market. We're going to even put in 3% for real inflation, and then you're able to take 4% out a year.
Yeah.
So pretty simple, pretty difficult math there.
Yeah, it's intense.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
But I really hope, listener, that you don't think that this is hard. We're totally joking.
We're totally joking. Like a child, I'm not saying a child could do it, but like you don't need a financial degree to just survive.
Nope.
I mean, you guys have lived long enough. You guys have managed long enough. This is just an extra tool in the tool belt. This is like, if I go to the gym every day, I'm going to get stronger. This is becoming financially stronger.
Yeah, and it
training
helps
that mind.
It helps helps so much, because if say you are the person who makes $40,000 a year, you can live off that and you're happy.
Yeah.
Now you just know, oh, it's only $1 million that I need. And not to say that $1 million isn't a big goal, but most people think I need like $25 bajillion to retire.
Yeah.
And then when they have that huge, there's really just shooting in the dark, and they don't even try, because it's so enormous. They don't even try.
Yeah.
But $1 million, and if you say like just start at 1,000, build it another 1,000, 100,000, 200,000, that becomes so much more attainable than just make infinite amounts of money.
For me, it's scarier to have a goal. It's scary to not have a goal, right?
Or if the goal is undefined.
Yeah, if the goal is undefined, that's a lot scarier than having a big goal. I'd much rather have a big goal than an empty goal where I'm like, oh, God, I don't know. It could right hook me out of nowhere. I don't know. I don't want to be unprepared.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a large goal like $1 million and be like, oh, that's the goal. Well,
at least I know.
Let me break it down for the next 40 years. I just need to save this much, invest this much, and maybe try and make a little bit more here, make a little more there, cut back on expenses, and maybe I retire earlier than I think.
Yeah, it's kind of like my goal for fitness as well. It has nothing to do with like, oh, I need to be a triathlete or anything like that. My goal is just to be better than I was yesterday.
Bingo. That's it.
That's my New Year's resolution every year. It's not go back to the gym or do anything like that, because those wane.
Yeah.
It's be better than I was the year prior.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be on a year time scale. Chris is just saying that because that's what you do in New Year's resolutions. But from a month to month standpoint, from a quarter to quarter, 6 month to 6 month, year to year, you can continue to test yourself and push yourself. Like for me, I just started working out 4 months ago consistently. Like I'd been to the gym here and there. I've had a gym membership since 1942. so
You're born with it.
I was born with it. Yeah, they gave it to me. Dominic Swole James. So, but the last it's amazing how much you can really get done in a matter of months. Because the first 3 months of the year, I'm not skinny. I'm not skinny build. I'm pretty stocky, right? But the last 4 months, I've been going to the gym and I've noticed a complete change in my physique, my strength, my mentality, my enjoyment, my happiness, and you almost think dang, I need a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years to achieve my ideal body. It's no, you can make noticeable difference in months, really quickly.
And you might not ever reach the point where you have your shredded six pack.
Yeah.
But every step that you've taken on this journey towards getting more fit, just like the same with finance, your goal might not be to have a washboard 8-pack. And some people's goal might not be to be completely financially independent and never work again a day in their life. But every step of the journey that you take to get a little bit better makes not only that aspect of finance, of fitness, but every aspect of your life a little bit better through the power of the compounding effect, where that power of compounding, that snowball begins to build, not just what you're focusing on, but every aspect of your life. Like you mentioned there, you work out, you feel better. Your relationships are going to be better. You're going to eat better. You're going to sleep better. All these things roll up into each other to make you a more well-rounded person.
And that's at the end of the day, that's what I want to be. Just a well-rounded person who can take any situation life throws at me and be able to handle it.
Yep. And that's by sticking to the systems that you have, the habits. It's not, you're not trying to say, I want the six-pack abs, so let me just do my 5-minute core
ab cruncher.
Ab cruncher core 6,000 that cost
$19.95.
5 payments of $19.99.
Yep.
You know that you're gonna have to embrace the suck and go through the grind and do something that's sustainable over the long term. Because it's that long term before the compound effect really starts to step in and you get to see instrumental changes. But you often don't get to see that because you're in it every single day. If you look at yourself year to year or decade to decade, you're gonna see just huge improvements. If I think back to me 10 years ago, that's a completely different person. If I think the person 10 years prior to that, of course I was a child, a completely different person.
You look so different. It's so strange.
Yeah, as a completely different person. And only when you look at a large enough time scale do you see how much you've grown and how much you've actually learned and sustained. Same with finance. So many people think I just want to be rich right now.
Yeah.
And even if you got rich right now, you don't know the value of money, you're going to screw it up.
Yeah.
That's why the majority of people that win the lottery end up going broke a year later and end up in a worse situation than they were in.
Yeah. I feel to me, there's multiple definitions of rich. There's financial rich and then there's mentally rich. Because you can have all the money in the world and still have a poor mindset. You can still feel poor and feel like you're in a scarcity mindset when you have all the money in the world.
Yeah.
But you can also be making $50,000 a year, saving, a good portion of your income, be like, wow, I'm not Bill Gates, but I feel rich. I've got everything I need. I'm happy.
Yep. And that kind of goes back to knowing, to maybe writing down your goals, going back to the why and saying, this is what I want. So when you achieve it, then you can realize, this is what I wanted. And there's things in all of our lives that we can be grateful for.
Definitely.
We can say, I have this, and there used to be a time that I didn't, and now I can't imagine not having it. Yeah. But you get to be grateful that you have those things. It just means everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting on to our next episode, really. Segment number 3, episode 3, mastering debt strategies and breaking free and building financial stability.
Yeah. It's really tough for people when you're really mired in the muck of how do I escape from debt. So many people just say this weight is so crushing, I can't see the light. I'd not even try.
Yeah. So they've given up. Their soul's been broken.
Their soul's been broken, and that's tough. And I also do jiu-jitsu and wrestling. I'm actually training to be a jiu-jitsu coach.
That's sick.
Yeah, that's my new passion that I'm pursuing too.
I love that. But when you become a teacher in things,
you become so much better.
Yes. It's weird. It's funny. It's like when we started the podcast, I had a good knowledge of finance, and obviously you have great knowledge of finance. But it's once we started really talking about it and teaching it, it's dude, we're not bad.
Yeah, because you're implementing it into your life. In order to teach, you have to be able to convey it into a way that shows that, like, oh, I understand this well enough. If you ask someone a question and they give you some long, drawn-out answer that you don't understand the reason to it, they don't know what they're talking about.
They don't know either.
You should be able to break it down to make it as simple as make more money, spend less, save more. Done.
Yeah.
It's really as simple as that.
Just gave away our secret.
Damn it.
Damn.
It's gone.
There's going to be all these phonies out here talking about income, expense, savings, genius. It's like, no, yeah, tell me more. Get out of here.
But there are a lot of ways to get out of debt. If you are feeling that crushing defeat that you are, and just remember, no one's coming to save you. So there is no quick fix. There really is no ways of just getting rid of the debt. We talked a little bit in that episode about debt consolidation and doing maybe a home equity line of credit and all these other things. But the best methods, we talked about the debt snowball, the debt avalanche, and the hybrid method.
And just real quickly, do we want to just touch on that real quick?
Of course. So the debt snowball method is we're going to take out the smallest amount of debt that we have. So say you have 3 credit cards all maxed out. One has $100, one has $200, one has $300. What the debt snowball approach would say is take out the one with $100 first, because that's going to get you the mental win that you need to go for the $200 and the $300. Even if the $300 one has a higher interest rate on it, which means it's going to compound faster than the $100 one. Then the avalanche approach is mathematically the most optimal way to do it.
Yeah.
It's going after which debt has the highest interest rate.
Yeah.
But again, we have to focus on the money mindset here. If you have something that has, maybe you have a credit card and it has $100,000 on it. Yeah, you really screwed up. But you have $100,000 on a credit card, and you have a car that has $100 left on it, but the APR on the car is 6%, or on the credit card it's 26%. Mathematically, it makes sense to go after getting rid of the credit card debt.
The biggest first, but
if you're going to wait forever to celebrate getting rid of that, maybe just pay off the car and feel better about it and then go after the credit card. And that's the hybrid method, is playing around and figuring out what's going to work best for you. Do a little bit of snowball, a little bit of avalanche.
Hybrid's my favorite.
Yep.
From a financial standpoint, I get the other two, but for me, hybrid, it's a mix of both, best of both worlds.
Yep.
I love the mental wins, and I also like saving money.
Yeah, that's the big thing about finance and all things in life. You don't need to be dogmatic either way. Like, there is always this middle path, and often that middle path is substantially better than going either extremes. So many people ask me, in my financial planning business, Chris, should I be 100% in equities or 100% in bonds? And I always answer, why do you have to be 100% in either one?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Like, let's do a mix of both.
Yeah. We also talked about the crisis fund.
Yeah, we talked about the crisis fund and the importance of having that little bit of win, of having money to you that can get you out of a crisis. And this is different than an emergency fund. So what I say for a crisis fund, for someone who's getting out of debt, once you start to pay off that debt, we want to save up $1,000 in cash, physical cash, $100 bills, $20 bills, dollar bills so you can make it rain one day, whatever you want to do. Yeah. But you do $1,000 in cash, and that lets you know that if there is an emergency, I have this money ready to go. And then you asked me during that time, well, Chris, what do you do with the crisis fund when you have enough to now build your emergency fund? And I told you, well, the crisis fund kind of rolls into the emergency fund. But what I've been implementing more often now is the crisis fund now becomes a true crisis fund where you have straight cash in your house ready to go in case there is a natural disaster. The banks fail. I don't know. A nuke goes off inside the...
Or if you have a Liam Neeson Taken situation.
Yep.
If you know that movie, then you would understand the reference.
So you have true cash. I say $1,000 is a good place to start. I keep $6,000 in straight cash in my house. Please don't rob me. It's not worth it.
Yeah,
you'll get shot. It's not worth it.
Yeah. His dogs are vicious, let me tell you.
Yeah.
If the bullets don't get you, the dogs will. Yeah.
But and then having that crisis fund that's there and that's in cold hard cash, it's also going to make it harder for you to spend.
So true. The psychology of actually like feeling and touching money versus like swiping a card, it's night and day.
Yep.
It feels like a game when you have a credit card. You're like swipe, swipe, swipe. But when you have like $101 bills, you're like, you want how much for those eggs?
Yeah.
You want how much? Like, nah, I'm not gonna do that.
Warren Buffett talks a lot about that. When you're investing, so many people think like I need to find the big hit every time. But Warren Buffett says if you think of a punch card where you get 20 punches, and every time that you buy a stock, that's one of your 20 punches, you're going to value what you purchase a lot more. So you're not going to be trading in and out, trying to do silly things.
Yeah, that's simple. Simple as that. And rest in peace to Charlie Munger.
Yep, he just passed a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then after you do finally pay off your debt, remember, keep that pressure on. Pressure makes diamonds. So once you finally pay off your debts, and I know this can take time and there's not going to be a quick fix. It could take some people just a month. It could take other people years of dedicated effort. But once you finally do that, please commit to no new debt and commit to the path of financial independence.
Absolutely. And once you commit to that path, you start building your wealth. And we talked about that in episode 4.
Yep, building wealth in one simple equation. We've already talked about that simple equation again, but it's income minus expenses equals your savings, which I like to call the gap, also known as the driver to FI. It's just really a fundamental equation to building wealth that you really, really need to understand.
Yeah.
And there's 2 different parts to this, right? Or actually, there's 3 different parts to that equation. Number 1 is there's income. So there's always ways to expand how much money you're bringing in. There's expenses, so there's always ways to reduce how much money you're spending. And then, of course, there's the savings and what you actually invest your money in order to allow it to grow faster.
Bingo.
So you can go a mile deep on each one of those specific topics, but let's just keep it broad overview right now. And in the next segment, here in just a second, we're going to talk about all of those things. But it's just so important, in addition to that we're making sure that we have intentionality in all life, in spending, in how much we're making.
I mean, like you said, in all life. Our goal is to live an intentional life. And if we're not there yet, making baby steps toward an intentional life is really the best way to live.
Yeah.
For me personally.
So many people in life go through life on autopilot. They have scripts that run in their head. I like to call them money memes for money, but they also have scripts. Someone pushes me, I punch.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking about what's the second, third, fourth order consequence of if I was to punch that person. You don't have to. I think when we talk about the thought of the horse and the rider, where there's an old Buddhist story of a man that's running down a path on a horse, and a passerby says, "Where are you going?" And the rider says, "I don't know, ask the horse." So that's exactly what
That's really funny.
So that's what you think about when you're not living your life with intention. You're just letting the horse do what it wants to do.
Yeah.
Rather than building some intention and controlling the reins just a little bit. But just like with a horse, if you pull on the reins so hard, the horse isn't going to go anywhere.
True.
But if you let it do everything, so you need to have that middle path and be able to control the horse, control your mind.
Definitely. I think a good first step for living an intentional life, if you're on autopilot right now, is just sit down all by yourself, no TikTok, no phone, no nothing, and just write down what you want out of life.
Yep.
And then just baby steps, work towards it.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's very important. I think, every year I set that up, like what do I want out of this year? And not that I'm always going to hit it. I don't know.
No,
But-
I mean...
And they're like usually big goals, the goals that can't be attained. Spend more time with my family, be there for my wife, be a loving husband, dad, all those things. That's far more important to me than having a specific goal, because you can never really win being a father. You can never really win being a good husband.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I'm like replaying in my head. I'm like I painted my dad this like little trophy. It's like world's best dad. I'm like, I don't know, Chris. Sounds like I don't know. That's pretty official.
Yeah, he shows up at the schools. He's like, just so you guys know,
So
I am the best dad. So where's my parking spot?
Exactly. He actually, I think he still has it on his desk.
Good. You should. That's important.
Yeah.
And then after that, in episode 5, we talked about. So we just talked about you can always make more money. You can spend less in order to save more. So in the first thing we talked about in episode 5 was analyzing the big 3 expenses, the things that really take a lot of the money out of that equation, the expenses portion.
Yeah.
So we discussed, just what we talked about a second ago, mindful spending and the impact of small financial decisions adding up. But you can focus on a $5 cup of coffee, or you can focus on $1 million question as to where do I live? How do I transport myself? What do I eat?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite episodes, actually.
Oh, good.
I really like that one, especially when we were talking about food.
I like food.
I like food, because we were talking about transportation. We're talking about food. We're talking about housing. Housing's great. Cars, cool. But food, that's where it's at. That's where a lot of people spend a lot of money these days.
Yeah.
A surprising amount of money for like DoorDash, Uber Eats, takeout. Because nobody wants to cook anymore.
And a lot of it's just not thinking intentionally. And we talked about different ways to reduce your spending costs. So you'll cook at home, meal plan, buy in bulk. I meal plan still every Sunday, and I don't need to. I have enough money that we could eat out every single night, but we still don't. And that not only affects my pocketbook and how much money I have because I'm not eating out, but it also affects my physical health. And that physical health affects my mental health. And all those things kind of work together.
Yeah, it's all one. It's all one.
Yeah, I think what we said, 67% of people's money is going to just 3 fixed costs: food, transportation, housing. That's a really big number. 67% of the money someone makes.
That's a lot of money.
You know, where are you going to put, where's the money for taxes? Where's the money for retirement? Where's the money for savings? In that episode, we talked about that most people, at the end of the year, they end up spending more than they made. And this is a big portion of it. After that, we talked a little bit about transportation, and the purpose of a vehicle is what? To get you from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to flex on people doing that, that's great.
Flex on the haters.
Yeah, you can flex on the haters, but you also need to make sure that you aren't going to put yourself into a bad financial situation just to impress people that don't care about what you have and that you don't care about impressing.
Yeah, yeah. I think you had a really good quote from that, and it was really similar to that what you just said. It's like, stop buying things you don't care about for people's opinions that don't matter.
Yep.
And I love that.
Yeah, why work to impress others? I forgot what it is, but it's something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely in there.
Yeah, so for transportation, we talked about maybe using public transit, carpool, maintain the vehicle that you have, and rather than having the best, brightest vehicle, just have a vehicle that is good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to drive the oldest beater in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I drive a 2015 Toyota Tacoma, and Dominic, the first time we ever met, asked me, like, oh, why do you drive that car? Like, finance guys drive like Corvettes.
Yeah, I was like, exactly.
Yeah,
That's exactly.
And I just said, I don't need to.
Yeah.
Again, just like Diogenes said, I've mastered the need to want more.
Yeah.
I'm happy with what I have. It fits my needs.
We also talked about house hacking.
Then we moved on to housing. We talked about ways to reduce your housing expenses, which is the biggest expense for most people.
It's the biggest, like relocating like you did. And a lot of people do all over the
Geo arbitrage.
Geo arbitrage, yes.
Sounds cool.
I'm arbitraging, geoly.
Yeah, geo arbitraging.
Geo arbitraging.
Yeah, but we also talked about like co-housing, so maybe you can live with your family for a little bit longer. House hacking, so purchasing a home and then renting out a room. I did that for a number of years as well. And then if all of those, because housing is really difficult. If someone is already in a house and they already have it, telling them you need to downsize, you need to bring in a person, most people are going to be like, no.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important when you're working with a client to not ask, what are you willing to do? But also ask, what are you not willing to do?
True.
To get into a better situation.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah, it's funny. I ask that question every time when I meet with people. Like, what are you willing to do to be in a better financial situation? And they'll tell me, and then I'll say, what are you not willing to do? And they're like, I'm willing to do anything. There's nothing I'm not willing to do. Okay, can we sell the kids? And then, of course, it's an extreme example.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so we have a line.
There's a line, yeah.
So let's find out what else are you not willing to do. Are you willing to bring people into your house and to co-house? And like, no. Okay, I need to know these things.
Yeah.
Because if I'm just throwing out random ideas and they're just saying no to all of them, like I need to know at what level can we not do.
Bingo.
And then saying that we can't co-house, we can't house hack, we're not going to relocate. You can always look to lower your utilities, maybe bring in some solar, bundle your insurance. We use off-peak hours for your electricity.
Whole load of stuff.
You can go back to the episode, episode 5, and listen to that.
Definitely. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to cut back,
which you should. Remember, there's both parts of the equation, but you can only
cut so
much, right, before you're really detrimenting your life. Yeah. So there's always, but what can you do? What can you always go to infinite?
You can always increase your income.
Yep, you can always make more money. There is no limit to potential income.
True.
But there's only so much expenses we can cut before we're living in a box, underneath a bridge.
Yes.
Because anyone could be financially independent right now if you want to live under a bridge.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you could just, fish.
Go to the food bank.
Yep.
Yeah. You can be that guy down by the creek.
Yeah.
And unfortunately now that is majority of people's aspiration is to live in a van down by the creek. And that's my aspiration.
I'm not going to lie, I've looked into it.
I've wanted to do it.
We've definitely looked into it, guys.
Van life is
it's so cool.
Is where it's at.
It's so cool.
But the cool thing is that you choose to put yourself into van life, not that you have to live in your car and feed yourself from a creek.
Dude, what I would give to just be able to pause time and not get any older, not have any situations, anything happen, and just get a nice van, a little kitchen in it, and just travel. Oh man,
That's my goal. But I have dogs. I have all this stuff now, and like you start to get bogged down by life.
I know.
It gets harder and harder.
It does. It does.
So if we're reaching someone who's just out of college and not even gone to college yet,
do it.
Do it while you're young.
Please.
Do it while you're young.
For us.
Yeah, for us. And then tell us in the comments and let us live through you.
Vicariously through you. Yeah. Dang.
And then after that, we talked about the 7 steps for earning yearly raises if you are working a W-2 job, and those were perform as best as you can perform as well as possible.
Yeah.
And I always say, whenever you're starting out, go as hard as you possibly can, so people remember you as the guy or gal that goes really, really hard. Obviously, after like a week or two, you're not going to just stop showing up to work. You got to continue that effort, but start off hard as you could. Yeah. Next was be likable and pleasant, network, dress for success. Continue developing your skills, manage yourself, and market yourself.
And like another point on perform as well as possible, like you were saying in the podcast, ask your boss what they expect from you.
Yep.
What would be extraordinary, and whatever they say is extraordinary, try and hit that.
Yep. My wife, she's currently going for a new position at her job, maybe more of a leadership role. So I was coaching her last night on how to be better at interviews, because that's something I feel I'm very good at. So I always ask questions at the end of your interview. You should always ask questions when they ask you have questions. One of the questions I usually use 3 questions, but the last question is, in 6 months, what will have to have changed for you to know that you made a good hire? And they'll tell you exactly like what things they're looking for.
Yeah.
And then you write those down. You know, they might say like, you want to increase revenue by this much. We want these many people. We want to bring on these many people on the team. Do that, achieve those goals, and you're going to set yourself up. You're going to make yourself so valuable to the team that they will give you whatever you want. Yeah. And then we also talk about evaluating your current job and its salary.
Sometimes you got to sidestep to a different company or ask for a raise.
You have to be willing to negotiate and willing to have that hard conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Because you can push it off indefinitely. But remember that jobs don't want to lose you more than you don't want to lose them.
Yeah. It's easier for you to find a new job than it is for them to find another you.
Yep.
Yeah. We also talked about side hustles.
Side hustles.
I love a good side hustle.
Me too. I mean, my whole business started off with a side hustle that gone right. So you never really know where a side hustle can go. But even if it doesn't become this huge business where you're making buku bucks, shoot, an extra $100 a week, $100 a month.
$100 a week is a great, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a great driver to FI.
Yeah.
And there's always ways. So $100 a week, that means we have to make $20 a day. And you go and cut grass for $20 a day. You know, hang some Christmas lights. It's the holiday season. Do whatever you need. There's so many different ways. And now there's the gig economy too. So you can hop on Uber, DoorDash, Rover.
Yeah.
I pay my Rover gal. We just got a new Rover gal who comes and watches the dogs because our other person, she's moving.
Yeah.
So she sent me that email saying like, "Hey Chris, we're going to be moving and I have to cancel all the trips we have for next year." It's like, I was going to pay you so much money. So
you lost so much money there.
So we found a new gal who's coming in, who's going to be watching the house, and I was just like, "Hey, just so you know, if you accept this role, we're going to pay you a lot of money."
Yeah, yeah.
So,
that's cool.
And that's just there, like, and she just happened to be a nice person, you know, who lived in their area. You never really know what kind of opportunities are out there like that.
Interesting.
In episode 7, what did we talk about?
We talked about. Sorry, I was just thinking about the fact that like someone's watching your dogs and like getting paid for it. I'm like, damn. I'm just like,
I'll pay you.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. But it's just like, it's such a cool job.
Yeah, like I pay them to live in my house while I'm gone.
It's such a concept.
Yeah, they get a guest bedroom. They have access to my food. Normally they bring their own food and stuff, but like I always tell them like, if you want something, eat it. I don't care.
That's wild. Such a wild
Yeah,
concept.
just take care of my dogs. That's all I care about.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We also talked about investing made simple.
Yeah, that was episode 7, part 1 of the 2-parters.
Part 1. That was a big one.
It was a big one, and we really wanted to, in part 1, just set the groundwork for investing and our philosophy on having a long-term approach. Because remember, markets on a day-to-day is a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, they fluctuate.
Yeah, if you zoom in on hour by hour, minute by minute, you're going to see something that looks like an EKG machine that's going through some really bad heart palpitations, and that person's going to die. But if you take a long-term view, if you pan out and you look at the market over 10 years, 100 years, there's no 1,000 years.
There's not 1,000 years, yeah. We haven't been around that.
On a long enough time scale, you're going to see that is a nice like 45-degree angle up and to the right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we talked about, in that episode, a lot about like past depressions, recessions, and then the ability to stay consistent in the market. You know, over the past 10 years, had you missed out of each year 5 trading days, you would have missed out on pretty much all of the returns. Just on 5 days. So being able to say, oh, I'm just going to buy low and sell high, that's great to say in hindsight.
Yeah.
But you don't know. I mean, can you, if I showed you a calendar, 365 days, and I say, choose the 5 days that you want to be invested in the market.
Yeah.
Would you be able to choose that?
No.
Statistically, you don't have a good chance.
No. It would be rough.
Yeah.
It would be very rough.
So many people say like, oh, well, when conditions are better, that's when I'll invest. When things are better, I'll invest then. And that's when people, unfortunately, rather than buying low, selling high, they do the opposite.
Yeah.
And they buy high and they sell low.
You can't time the market.
No, it's, maybe some people can, but that's not the game that we're playing.
There's different games to be played, and that's just not our game.
Yep. And then just a long-term perspective gives you success over, and it allows you to weather short-term uncertainty. That's the most important thing that we got from episode 7, is making sure that we have that long-term time horizon.
And the long-term vision, really.
A long-term vision. We're mirroring our goals with our investing philosophy.
100%. But in part 2,
in part 2, in episode 8, we actually went into the specifics as to how to invest, because there's so many people out there that say investing needs to be this complex thing that's really, really difficult and no one understands, because financial advisors have this crazy secret knowledge that no one else in the world has. I don't. I don't have secret knowledge.
Like for me, a portion of my money is invested with Acorns.
Good.
You know that app? Mm-hmm. And I was checking it, and the year, you can go on the calendar and see what did it do this year? And it was up almost 11%.
Yep. And you haven't done nothing.
I've done literally nothing.
And I always like this one. If I could put you in a time machine right now and go back 24 years to 1999, and I was going to say, Dominic, over the next year in 2000, we're going to have something called the dot-com bubble.
Yeah.
Where every single company that has .com after it, we realize isn't real. And then in 2001, we're going to have the Twin Towers incident. In 2008, a bunch of bankers are going to get together and they're going to make loans that are so predatory that not even they understand it. They're going to bundle it together, destroy the housing market. And then after that, we're going to continue our Iraq war for another bunch of years.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, we're going to have a global pandemic that's going to shut down the world.
Yeah.
Your thought process would be, I'm not going to invest for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
But had you invested, you would have compounded 12% annually over those years.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it was 12% every year.
No.
That's very important. There could have been years that it was down -4, -6, -20. Yep. But there were other years that it was up 32, 12, 16.
Yep.
And over that long enough time horizon, you get that growth. When we talk about the magic penny idea of you need to give it time to allow that penny to grow.
Yeah, 100%.
And then we shared our 5 rules for long-term investing and for successful investing. And
let's get into them, bro.
I'll go rule number 1. Understand that market always goes up if you have a long-term perspective.
Number 2 is acknowledging that the market corrections are inevitable and unpredictable.
Number 3, realize that no one can consistently time the market.
And number 4, once you grasp the basics of investing, paying less attention can be beneficial.
And number 5, avoid panicking when markets experience significant downturns. I really like number 4 and just taking that wider perspective, because obviously it's my job to stay with markets and to know what's going on and know what's going on with politics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when my clients come to me and say, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? I just go, stick to the course.
Yeah.
There's so many factors in the world that
simple as that.
And then we talked about introducing index funds and a way to match market performance. And we just talked about what the market has done if you just stick with it.
Bingo.
And after that, there's the index. You can buy those mutual funds. But I also said you can also buy ETFs, which is newer. That's what I prefer to use because that's what I grew up with.
A little bit more fluid. And we did a deep dive on all that.
And ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. We did a deep dive. So if you want to learn more, go back to episode 8 of the FI Crash Course. And learn a little bit more about that. And that would be episode 14 of the pod.
Yeah. We're at 14 episodes.
Oh, we're more than that. We're like
18 episodes.
18 episodes. Yeah, we're getting pretty far.
We're getting pretty far.
And then in episode 9 of the FI Crash Course, we talked about everyone's favorite subject in the world, taxes.
Moment of silence.
I thought it was a fun.
It was good. It's just taxes, though.
Yeah,
it's taxes.
But there's ways to optimize your taxes and to keep more of what you earn if you know the rules of the game.
True.
Which I think that's really, really fun. Like we talked about so much. So much of being good with finance and having fun in life is turning it into a game.
It's true.
Just make it a game. And that's what I do with my taxes. I'm always trying to figure out how can I, because the IRS, if you ever read the IRS tax code, don't, because it's really bad. But there's a bunch of if-then statements. If you ever done if then on like Excel, you know that it gets complex real fast. And one screw up can destroy the whole causal chain. But that's how it is with taxes. That's why there's so many different loopholes, because it's all if then statements.
You need a PhD to understand that tax code. It seems like.
Even my CPA doesn't know everything.
Yeah. That's crazy.
There's so many times I'll ask my CPA all these questions, and I feel so bad for my CPA because I have a lot of questions. And then at the end of it, be like, Chris, that was a great question. I have to get back to you. And to his credit, he always gets back to me with a bunch of answers.
That's good.
So
that's good.
But the same thing with finance. I don't know everything. Like no one knows everything.
Yeah, it's like if I went to the doctor, the doctor's not going to know everything. No. Why would he?
Yeah. And then we talked a little bit about what's the purpose of taxes. Yeah. And I went to the irs.gov to say that taxes provide revenue for federal, local, and state governments to fund essential services like defense, highways, police, the justice systems that benefit all citizens who could not provide such services very effectively for themselves.
Yeah. I can't pay for a police force, but my taxes can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we all pull our money together, we can.
Mm-hmm. Although I would like to have a small private army, but that's a different conversation for...
That's why I want to achieve FI.
Yeah, yes.
Is to have people surrounding my house.
Exactly, yeah. I want to have a security system like yours. With the Rancor.
Yeah, my Rancor pit.
Yep, the Rancor pit. That's
if you ring the doorbell 3 times, the little chute opens and you fall down into the Rancor pit. He's very mean.
I love it. He's not kind. No.
And then with taxes, I wanted to make sure that we covered this, and we cover it again, that there's a difference between marginal and effective tax rate.
Yes.
So marginal tax rate is the rate that corresponds to your highest income bracket that you fall into. Mm-hmm. Effective tax rate is the actual percentage that you pay on the entirety of your taxable income. So say you make $100,000. That's going to put you into the 32nd percent tax bracket. That does not mean, though, that the whole $100,000 is taxed at 32%. No. Your first $1 to $11,000 is taxed at 10, then $11,000 to $40,000 is taxed at 12, so on and so forth. So I like to think of buckets idea. Once you fill up one bucket, the 10% bucket, you move on to the 12% bucket. Yep. Once you fill up the 12% bucket, you move on to the 22% bucket, then the 24% bucket, then the 32, 36, so on and so forth. I can't remember exactly what it is, but
yeah, simple as that.
It really is, and it's very important to understand that I've had people say, Chris, if I make a little bit more money, it's going to put me into the next tax bracket, and then I'm going to lose money in taxes. That's not how it works.
Yeah, that's not how it works. Yeah. But we also discussed tax advantage retirement accounts.
Yeah, and that you can actually control your tax rate by, you can actually lower that. So say you didn't want to move into the 32nd percent tax bracket and pay that $20,000 in at 32%, you can actually use a tax advantage account like a 401k or an IRA or an HSA. Shoot, if you're self-employed, a SEP or a simple 401k, you can actually take that money and put it into a retirement account, and you're paying your future self.
Yeah.
And go back and listen to that episode 9. I think that was
a wild episode. Very underrated episode, I will say. I know you see taxes and you're like...
I think that's what it is. Most people see it and they're like, I don't want to do anything.
You're like, there's no way you can get me to watch this. It's taxes. I'd rather watch like Modern Family or whatever. Trust me. That's a big episode. It's a good episode. Yeah. It's a really there's stuff in that episode that I learned.
Yep.
It was wild.
And the basis of it is you can control your tax rate. And having some intentionality now can set you up so much in the future.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like you can't be mad at rich people for not paying taxes and then not want to learn about taxes. It's hypocritical. It's like, you gotta learn the game.
Yep.
You gotta learn the game.
And none of what we're doing is wrong in any way, shape, or form. It's not illegal. Nope. Everything is 100% board. Shoot, the IRS wants you to save money because their hope is that if you have enough money in the future, you're not going to need to depend on Social Security, which may or not be there.
Yes.
That's why they're incentivizing you to save money.
Bingo.
And then in episode 10, we talked about, and I was really debating if we even needed this episode, but we had a viewer mailbag listener whose wife had tragically passed away, and it just ensured that we needed to have something about insurance.
Was that a bit you just did there?
I noticed it.
That's kind of messed up, man. I'm just kidding. Yeah. But so we needed an insurance.
Yeah, it's protecting your family and your assets and how important it is.
A lot of people, they'll go into debt because they didn't have insurance, like medical bills and stuff like that. That's one of the leading causes of bankruptcy in the country, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, and the purpose of insurance is to control risk that we obviously could not foresee or know was going to come.
Yeah.
And Can you go back? Yeah.
Yeah, I love the thing that you said in that podcast where it's like the reason we have insurance, like you said, is to transfer risk from myself to the insurance company. So they're taking all of the weight off my shoulder, all of the liability, they're handling it versus me. Because I don't know if I'm going to have $1 million medical bill in my lifetime. Hopefully, God forbid, I don't. But the insurance is there just in case.
Yeah. And you want to know a real crazy secret? Did you know that insurance companies have insurance companies?
That's so stupid.
Yeah, it's called the reinsurance market. So like we go to the primary source, USAA, Geico,
Sure.
Progressive, whatever.
Sure.
Every one of those companies, there's a reinsurance company that is above them that they insure through.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here, boys?
So I mean, that's what we're doing. We're the bottom of the level. We're just trying to do that. Shoot, that's what options trading is. You're creating insurance.
Yeah. That is a freaking concept, dude. What?
Yep.
The insurance companies have insurances?
Yep.
Oh my God. And banks have the Federal Reserve. They have their daddy bank. Wow.
And then we talked about, since insurance is difficult and there's a lot of weird ways. So we talk about ways to lower your insurance. Number one is the difference between the deductibles and premiums. So you can always increase your deductible, how much money you have to pay out to stake your claim as something happened and I want my money back, and that will lower your premiums.
And like we said, no need to get confused with that. The premium is just like your monthly charge. It'd be no different than your Netflix, right? It's no different. It's just a monthly charge, reoccurring. That's what a premium is. And the deductible is the ability to activate the premium.
Yep.
Or to activate the insurance.
Yep. To activate the insurance, to say I had a loss and this is how much money I'm going to put out in order to collect on that loss.
Yeah. It's like having Amazon Prime and going to their like movie section and then buying a movie.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that a lot.
I like that one too.
Yeah. And then I also said that another good way to lower insurance is to shop around twice a year.
Yeah.
And look, and it's not a fun call, but you can make that call. And then use your Chris Voss Art of Negotiation. Never split the difference. Ways to try to get better at it. It's just a practice. And then finally, bundle insurance through one provider. So, for example, my house is insured through USAA, and so are my cars. But my motorcycle is insured through Geico. They're all differently insured, but you can play that game however you find fit. And then we talked about the kind of insurances you should have. So I just touched on a few. Home and renter insurance is important. Auto insurance is important, and it's required by law. So you should have it, because I've been hit by someone who doesn't have it, and it sucks.
It's a prick move, guys. Have auto insurance.
Yeah, it's a prick move. Then there's medical insurance, which unfortunately there's really not an easy solution there.
You gotta have that.
You gotta have it, but it's so expensive. We'll create a full pod just dedicated to that. And then maybe if you're young enough, short-term disability.
Yeah.
And then if you have people that's depending on you, then the whole next portion of that was life insurance. And the purpose of life insurance is to shield your surviving family members from the stress of financial struggles. They've already gone through the worst thing that anyone can imagine: losing a loved one, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't put them into financial debt as well.
Yeah.
And I said that the only reason that you want to get life insurance is if there are people who are depending on you. So you probably don't want to have life insurance to give money to your parents, because they're not depending on your income, or to your sister. But for me, my wife is dependent on my income. She's really not, because she has a great job. And so but when we have kids, she will definitely be dependent on that income. So we both have term policies on ourselves for 20 years. 20 years right now. 20 or 25 years, I can't remember. So ideally, by the time our kids are grown, they're no longer needing our income, because they're out in the world making their own money, doing their own thing.
Kicking them out.
Yeah, kicking them out.
Get the boot.
And then that's why I said there's a difference between term and whole life policy. I recommend doing term policy and investing the difference that you would normally put into a whole life policy into normal investments. Because term policy is usually 5 to 10 times cheaper than a whole life policy, because you are guaranteed to die. But with a term policy, you're not guaranteed to die within that period.
Yeah, you can outlive the policy, preferably.
Preferably, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the final, kind of just quick touch point we did in that episode that I think is really important is organize a financial document that has your wills, medical directives for a seamless transition in case you do pass away. I recommend either using a Google Doc that's shared with your significant other, or a thumb drive, and I use both.
Yeah. I like the thumb drive idea, because that way they don't have to go through passwords to try and get into because it's hard to get into the computer. Yeah. As if you have a password and stuff.
And make sure you have that thumb drive locked up real nice and safe, because I put my passwords on that thumb drive too.
Literally.
I use a password manager.
Yeah.
So I just have the master password that you will need to know what a password manager is.
That's smart. Keep it in a lockbox or a safe.
Yeah, sure. You can go to
Safety deposit box.
safety deposit box. I just keep it in my safe because if you can take that safe, good on you.
Yeah, it's a pretty big safe.
It bolted down.
She's beefy.
She's beefy. She's beefy. She's upstairs, so I mean, you could probably if you push it down the stairs, you probably break the stairs. It'd probably fall into the.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Chris was telling me like when he got the safe, he bought the safe and built the house around it. Yeah. It was floating in the air, and they had to build a house. And
it's like the John Wick safe. It's inside the floor, or you have to smash it
concrete.
with the
Oh, that'd be so sick.
That would be cool.
God, that'd be cool.
And then in our final episode 11, we're coming to a close here, guys.
Yeah.
We talked about higher education and the pursuit of lifelong learning. And we just touched upon that you actually have a choice in what's best for your life. You don't have to go to college just because your parents told you to.
Yeah.
You know, you get to do what you want. And we talked about the difference between going to college versus maybe going to a trade school. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, factors that affect, you know, and the difference between that. You know, would you rather go to college and be $100,000 in debt and forego making money for 4 years? Or would you rather go directly into a trade skill job where maybe you're plumbing and maybe not be the most glamorous job in the world, but you're going to be making money straight out of college, money that you can save and build up. And just like that magic penny, have the money begin compounding even faster.
Exactly. Yeah, you know what? I think I was mistaken earlier. I think the 11th episode of the FI Crash Course, that one might have been my favorite episode.
It was my favorite episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's just so important. And then
we're obsessed with learning.
Yeah, we are.
It's interesting because when I was in school, I was not a great learner.
Me neither.
Horrible learner.
Nope.
It was very boring. I think Chris and I are both the same in this aspect where it's like, why am I learning this?
Yep.
A lot of this. It's like, why am I learning this? It's like, now we get to learn what we want to learn. And what we talked about in that episode also is like, once you get out of college, that's when your education starts.
Yeah, the journey really starts once you stop going. But say you do want to go to college, there are two things that are going to affect the cost. Number one is how long you're in college.
True.
And then the number two is what college you go to.
True.
So you need to make sure you're being mindful and thinking these things through, because so many people who are in college just go, oh, future me will deal with that problem. Screw that person. And
it's a bad way to live.
It's a bad way to live.
Bad way to live. Yeah. Don't sacrifice tomorrow for today.
Yep. Yeah, but it's so important that once you do finally complete the traditional education, your K through 12, or if you go on to 12 through whatever your degree, that's just the start of the journey. There's an old Marcus Aurelius story that I really, really like. Marcus Aurelius was one of the last great emperors of Rome. And there was one day where he was an old man. He's the emperor of Rome, most powerful person in the world. And he was walking with his notebook and paper down the steps of the palace. And one of his servants said, Marcus, where are you going? And he said, I'm going to Cato to learn that which I do not know. So even the most powerful man in the world was still going and seeking out new knowledge. And that's really important, just staying committed to the path of learning and learn to love the process. Explore topics that just interest you. And you'll be amazed by how much your interest continues to grow as you learn more. You get to see how all of these different subsects of knowledge all intersect. That's what I like to do. I like to try to see because everything is the same exact thing, all just rehashed to a different wavelength.
I love that. God, learning is great.
Yeah.
Once you learn how to learn and what to learn, it's so much fun.
Yeah, and there's no secret to how to learn. Everyone's different. I learn auditorily very, very well. But I can't read. If you gave me a book and told me to read this, like with my eyes, I don't learn very well.
Yeah, I feel like for me, part of the learning is I learn by listening, but in combination with practicing.
Oh yeah, you got to
doing it.
Sorry, you got to do.
You got to do as well.
Because what did I say? Information without action is entertainment.
Exactly. And there's a lot of great books out there, but if you don't use the tools from the books, what are you doing?
Yep. And that brings us to our action step of this final FI Crash Course, episode 12. It's go back and rewatch or re-listen to any of the podcasts that we just discussed that you believe will have the most impact in your life. And here's the important part. Implement one action step that you take from that episode into your life to make yourself 1% better today.
Yeah.
It's that compounding effect of 1% better. 0.5% better every day. It's going to make you to be the greatest person in the world.
I mean, if you watch one of these episodes and you set up a Roth IRA or a savings account or a emergency fund or any of
or pay down some debt that you didn't think you ever could.
That is huge.
Yeah, and that's the reason we make this podcast, is for the hope and continue to do what you're doing. And we've been getting a lot more Five Friday feedback, viewer mailbag. So I'm getting to see people even celebrating their wins, which is super cool.
I love that.
So yeah, please continue to send in your wins. So if you guys want to go to FIGuys.com, go to the feedback tab. Even if you don't have anything for Five Friday feedback, if you don't want to be featured, just let us know what's going on. We have talked about building a community of people who celebrate each other's wins and are there for each other on the path towards financial independence and living a better and more intentional life. And I want you guys to know, just because we're finishing the FI crash course, it does not mean that we are done with the FI Guys podcast.
Final episode.
Yeah, final episode.
Sorry, guys.
Bye-bye. Yeah. We both got it.
Yeah. Good thing we had that term policy.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
But just like you on your journey towards better education, we're just now getting on our journey towards financial freedom and living a more intentional life where we use finances to gain more joy and reward out of every day.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to end this massive course.
Yeah, I've been very eternally grateful to our viewers. Please continue to like, listen, subscribe. Next week we're going to be talking about something pretty cool. I talked a lot about Southwest Companion Pass. I'm going to teach you guys how to get Southwest Companion Pass, and I'll teach you how to get it for 2 years rather than 1. And if you have a spouse or a significant other, I can basically teach you how to have one of you guys fly for free pretty much indefinitely.
For those that don't know, that is the credit card hack of credit card hacks.
Yep.
It's like Chris's go-to flex when it comes to credit card hacking. It's my favorite.
No, yeah, it's great. And I'm going to dedicate a whole episode to teaching what I know how to do that.
So sick. I'm just going to sit back like a little notepad. I'm like, how many points?
Yeah, how many points do I need? How do I do that?
Okay. And the companion is for someone else? I got to get someone else?
Yeah. I have a friend?
I got to have a friend? Okay.
And then remember, guys, there's always a fee for the show.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to ask you for your credit card, but if you found value, and I really hope you did, especially today, please go back and listen to one of the episodes and then tell your friend or someone that you love about the FI Guys. And with that, we'll see you on Friday for Five Friday feedback. Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, not the podcast sponsor. It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.